Oh man, you can't stay in that funky place. You got to get out of it, because if you don't, you're gonna be stuck in this rut forever. So how do you get out of a rut? What's a rut first off? Let's say you're in a situation where things aren't going great right now. Let's just be honest. Maybe you're watching this video because you go, man, I'm stuck in a rut. I got to get out of this place. Things aren't that great. Well, how do we get out of it? I'm gonna talk about that today, because I find that we all find ourselves in these holes sometimes. They're not fun. No one likes to be there. And while you're there, everything seems to suck. Food doesn't taste as good. Water doesn't taste as watery. It sucks. And I've been there a lot of times, man. I didn't want to eat, didn't want to move, didn't want to do anything. Or business-wise, you're in a rut. Or career-wise, you're in a rut. Or the relationship feels kind of bland and lifeless, right? And we get stuck in these things, and we go into what I call a fog. The fog is like, you let it fall. Like you're moving through the fog, but you don't know where you're going. You don't know if you're in the right direction. You're just kind of getting up and moving. You don't feel like you're going very fast. It's crazy. Fogs are these weird spaces we get into in life. When we step into them, we don't step out of them too quick. We sometimes wander around in them way too long. And I want you to realize that life can't be lived in a fog. Cannot do it. I've been in many fogs, we'll call it, in my life, where I just was like, I'm just doing things. And the more you stay in those fogs, man, the less joyous you are as a human. The more you kind of want to just evade everything and walk away from stuff, and you get lifeless. You're just now existing, and existence is not a great thing. Living is a great thing. So how do you get out of these places, and what does it look like? I know for me, when I think about the times I was in a rut, and I was in a rut, man, back in 2013, I want to say it was. I was not doing good. I was out of the NFL by maybe 5-ish years, but life wasn't all of a sudden this amazing thing, right? I was just kind of floating. I was divorced. I had 3 kids that I was trading back and forth with my crazy ex-wife that I wasn't a fan of at the time, and it's all was just crazy. It was just sour. And I remember one point in time, man, I just had this moment of where I had been broken up. I had this girlfriend I had got who had moved in with me, and then through some weird back and forth, and her job herself, and we're like, let's just kind of, she'll move back to where she was at, and it was going to be distance types. It was weird. Never was going to work out. And I find myself, I'm separate from this person. I had played flag football, torn my Achilles. So my Achilles was torn. I couldn't actually walk. I had a boot, and this is at the beginning of the Achilles issue. I was broke because I couldn't go to work, so I wasn't actually making money in my business. The business wasn't making money, so I couldn't pay the business rent. I couldn't pay my home's rent. My kids are with my ex, and I'm just sitting here and as a matter of fact, it was Christmas Eve 2013. And I remember that I was in this really funky place. I had to ask my ex-wife, can I borrow $5,000 to pay my bills and get the kids some Christmas presents? If I do that, I'll have $100 left over to buy them some Christmas presents. I remember going to Walmart and scootering around with a boot on my leg. I was like the little, scooter carts, looking for some presents for my kids in the dollar section. And this is after the NFL. If you want to talk about a rut, man, that's what I would call that. And I couldn't buy anything, do anything. My car was broken down. It was like leaking water everywhere. It was horrible. But I was stuck there. And somebody listening right now might be in a similar place where things just aren't going smooth. They don't feel that great. And I get it. I felt like a loser because I'd asked my ex for money. And if you ever had to ask your ex for money, that's a crazy, weird thing to have to do. But I had to swallow all my pride and do that. I remember having to take this really deep look at myself and go, who am I and who am I going to be? And you have to ask yourself that question. Who are you and who are you going to be? How are you going to show up? How are you going to do certain things? You're going to be the same person forever? It's going to be how you live your life. You're going to live in this rut forever? I remember I had this decision I had made. I was like, I'm not going to be here this time next year. This time next year, this will not be my life. And that was my commitment to myself. I don't know what I'm going to do or how I'm going to do it, but this time next year will not be who I am ongoing. And that was a very necessary decision to make and a necessary conversation to have with myself, and one that I believe you need to make if you're in a rut. If you've been going through the same fog, whatever, you got to make a choice and a decision first to go, look, I'm done with this situation in life. This time next year, I won't be here. Now, that's not going to be something that magically happens because you choose it's going to happen. It doesn't always, I'm going to be better next year, then all of a sudden, you're better next year. You got to work towards it. You got to earn that thing. It has to be something you put forth energy towards. I remember stepping into the next year and going, okay, I got to find a way. And so what I did is I leaned into stretching myself in ways that weren't typically comfortable. As much as I didn't feel like doing anything, I needed to do something. Because that's usually what it feels like. You're stuck in that rut. You don't have the energy, the emotional positivity to step up and do something bigger and grander. You don't. You just get stuck there doing the same thing, going, man, I don't want to do this. This is horrible. Yeah, it does. It is horrible. It does kind of suck, but you can't not do it. You've got to do it. You've got to lean in because no one's going to come and save you. I'm not coming. The people that love you aren't coming. They got their own lives to live. They may support you, but no one's going to come save your life for you. So if you're stuck in a rut, you got to get out of the rut. Sorry. It might not even be your fault. Something out of your control might have happened. That's great, but it's still your responsibility to fix that thing, to get out of that place. So when you have that ownership, and this is my choice, and I make a decision, I'm not going to be here the same time next year. Now you got to do something to get out of this place. So you're not here same time next year. So what do you do? What's going to take place? Well, in my opinion, the thing that scares you the most. That's it. What scares you the most? For me at that time, I'd admit that I wasn't doing well in my business. I wasn't making any money. I needed to try something I'd never tried before to get something I'd never had before. So in 2014, for me personally, I stepped into the space and go, okay, I gotta yeah, I got to go find a way to make some more money. And I went and took what I knew really well, which at the time was the fitness industry. I knew this stuff. I go, fitness world, I can serve people, but where? Where do I serve people? Where do I build this? Where do I find an edge? And so I go, you know what? I'm going to go bang for your buck. I hear this corporate consulting. I hear this thing is a good thing. If you can get in with a company, provide a valuable service, they'll pay you really well for it. I go, let's go try this. So I went out there, January, having conversations, going back and forth, trying to get me to get in somewhere. And I found this company, multi-billion-dollar company, that I created an awareness of an issue they had that was causing them pretty much bleed money through injuries. So I go, if I can come in and teach these people how to be able to modify and mitigate the issues, that I could actually save them a bunch of money. And if they're saving a bunch of money, why not give me some of that to actually have done the job, right? So I went in, man, I had a bunch of conversations. I'm talking layer upon layer upon layer, going into meetings, having conversations with people to eventually get a contract, to sign a contract that was worth $150,000 for 3 months of work. And I hired a couple guys that ended up paying them a little bit and ended up being a profit of $120,000. Now, in my time, that was a lot of money. Like after the NFL, my little job, I was making like maybe $36,000 a year in my gym business. That's what I was, nothing, right? So I go, man, like if I can just find a way to, so this was a lot of money. This was like 3 years almost for me, 4-ish years of money that I would get. And I was like, I got this is great. And so I had this whole idea of like, this is what it is, but here's what I had to do. I had to do things I wasn't comfortable with doing. I had to go and sit in meetings and talk to people I'd never talked to, using words I'd never used, getting questions asked of me I had no definitive answers for. I didn't fully know what it is they wanted, but I was just talking back and forth. It took me a sales cycle of a year to get paid, a year. But the next year, I was not in that same place I was the year before. I developed different skills now, different communication skills, different conversational skills, different awareness of situations I was in, different ideas of how you could make more and solve more and do more. I'd learned how to become a better me. So much so that I actually left the industry I was in of fitness because I'd made a good impact and I wanted to try something else, this whole world. And I did the exact same thing. I stepped out of this rut of this gym business that I felt like was bogging me down. I had a skill set, but I wasn't even making money in my gym business anymore. I was making money as a consultant outside of the gym. So I go, well, why am I going to keep the gym open? I could just go and make the money and make the impact at a larger scale, both sides, out in the world. So I went out and did that. But then I found like, I'm not 100% in love with this. I just did it because I needed the money. And so I did step away and I found myself taking another action in another area that I wasn't comfortable with. The more I did that, the more things grew. I believe that's what you do when it comes to getting out of a rut. You take actions in the direction of difficulty, of fear, things that don't feel good, but you know they could be good. You only fear them because you see them as important. And when you give yourself the grace to realize how important this is, now you start doing things differently. Now you start showing up differently for yourself, for people in your life, taking different actions, but you have to lean into that. You can't avoid that little difficult space that makes you just feel super uncomfortable and expect to get to the other side of that. You don't get to walk around the wall. You have to climb it. No one walks around the wall. No one gets lifted over either. You have to climb it. Brick by brick, step by step, pain by pain. That's the journey of it all. And when you do that, you earn the outcome. You earn a seat at the table that people next to you have already gone that journey to get that. That's how you get there. And when you can do that, when you can actually give yourself that peace, that grace, and then tell yourself, I got to do it, and lean into it and challenge yourself and test your mettle and see what you got. Man, like something different comes out of you. You start noticing that you are built different, you can do different, and life is different for you. And all of a sudden, you magically pop your head up and go, wow, I'm not who I was a year ago. I'm out of the rut. I'm in a flow, because you never even notice when you leave the rut. Like you're in a funky place, and all of a sudden it's less funky, less funky, less funky, and then all of a sudden you go, oh crap, this is amazing. This life is good. You can't even pinpoint the day you came out of the rut, so to speak. It just all of a sudden you're recalling and becoming aware of the fact you're not in it anymore. And that's the beautiful space. That's where you got to seek and find. But it comes through you doing the actions. So go do the actions. Get out of your rut. And as always, go out into the world and make shift happen.